Have you ever been in situations where you have been treated as if you don't have the same worth as others around you? For whatever reason. Maybe you were persistently bypassed and other people's lesser achievements were acknowledged and celebrated. Maybe making you feel somewhat disregarded. You may have been deeply hurt by key people in your life who seemed to appreciate others more given the same circumstances. Maybe those who were supposed to care enough to see to your basic needs may have ignored you whilst taking good care of others around you. I know what it feels like. I experienced it a lot. The extent of it I only realized with hindsight as a grown-up, which in fact turned out to be a blessing. Not immediately identifying that rejection for what it was probably protected me from being as traumatized as I could have been through being constantly overlooked, relegated, and disregarded. What it did do, though, was to make me believe deep down, subconsciously, that other people were more deserving of care, attention, affirmation, acknowledgement, and so on. For example, it was only with hindsight that I realized I was actually quite academically gifted. I think it was because my considerably high attainment was never remarked and celebrated. It was always taken for granted. And yet, at the same time, other people around me who apparently were worth more, mattered more, or deserved better were celebrated for achieving much less than I did in my presence. What is a young person to make of that? I am aware that when it becomes obvious that you have been at the receiving end of this kind of treatment, it can be very hurtful and may result in equally damaging anger, resentment, and bitterness. It is painful to face the truth that people who were supposed to love you did not in reality. But it is important to face it regardless in order to seek healing and deliverance from the resulting trauma in your soul, because it's there. Not facing the truth will be like living with ongoing drip, drip, drip of pain in one's soul. If the problem is not identified and overcome, it will result in self-imposed limitations that will definitely prevent you from living up to your God-given potential. It is not about getting others to change their behavior or even to agree with you that they behave badly towards you. They may never do that. Truth is, that is beyond your control. Waiting for or demanding that others change their behavior so we can forgive them and be healed ties us to those people in an unhealthy and destructive manner. People treat others badly because they too are traumatized. This is indeed a damaged world full of damaged people all because of rebellion against God, our Creator. Even if you get some people to admit they have treated you badly, you can guarantee that you will meet other damaged people who will also treat you badly. The best option is really to receive healing, independent of people that inflicted previous trauma, and then be able to sustain progressive healing, independent of people who may knowingly or unknowingly behave in ways that may threaten to reopen old wounds. Is it really possible to receive this kind of healing? Thankfully, it is. I know from experience. But first, be comforted that you're not the first to be overlooked and won't be the last. It helps to know that you're not alone. There is hope. Take the example of David, the overlooked shepherd boy who became the best king Israel had. You can find this account of David's life in the first book of Samuel in the Bible, chapter 16. I'll just read a few excerpts from it. I'll read from verse 1 first. The Lord said to Samuel, "How long will you mourn for Saul, since I have rejected him as king over Israel? Fill your horn with oil and be on your way. I'm sending you to Jesse of Bethlehem. I have chosen one of his sons to be king." Okay, so Samuel arrived in Bethlehem and the people were scared. You see, he was a man reputed to speak for God, a true prophet. Whenever he showed up, guilty people got scared. In the same way that some criminals run away whenever they catch sight of uniformed police, even if the police didn't know they were there. Anyway, Samuel went to Jesse as God commanded. When Jesse was asked to present his sons, he presented 7 out of 8. David was overlooked, even by his own father. But God, whose opinion certainly matters more than anyone else's, did not overlook David. The account goes on in verses 10 to 13. Let's see what happened. Jesse made 7 of his sons pass before Samuel. But Samuel said to him, "The Lord has not chosen these." So he asked Jesse, "Are these all the sons you have?" "There is still the youngest," Jesse answered. "He's tending the sheep." Samuel said, "Send for him. We will not sit down until he arrives." So he sent for him and had him brought in. He was glowing with health and had a fine appearance and handsome features. The Lord said, "Rise and anoint him. This is the one." So Samuel took the horn of oil and anointed him in the presence of his brothers. And from that day on, the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon David. Wow. David went on to become a king, a great warrior, and an amazing king. What made the difference? God's intervention. It is comforting to also read the following truth in the Bible. A simple statement. for God does not show favoritism. So God can do the same for anyone who chooses to put their trust in Him, as David did from a young age. I once came across a speaker who inspired me to review my life prayerfully and thoughtfully and think of one defining word that could summarize what is causing pain and hurt, like a chronic emotional trauma. That was when I realized that for me, the dominant word was overlooked. Then he suggested taking some time to pray about this and give it all over to God, forgiving people who may have been responsible for inflicting that hurt and rejection. And then, when ready, to ask God what His word over me was. I did as he suggested. When I asked the Lord, instantly the word that lodged deep in my soul was precious. I experienced an overwhelming healing of emotional wounds. I know that I am precious to God, and that makes all the difference. God can do the same for you. If you choose to, you could take as much time as you need to go through the same process and hopefully receive your own healing. Remember, God does not show favoritism. He has reached down to every human through the incarnation, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. If you resolve to turn away from a life of disobedience to God and ask for forgiveness, you will receive it, because Jesus has already taken the punishment for all sin on your behalf and mine. You will be reconciled to the Almighty God. You can ask for and be filled with God's Spirit, who will empower you to overcome sin and its consequences from within your soul. You will have the certainty that you are accepted into God's family, and that God will never overlook you in this life and forevermore, in His new creation that will be perfect and permanent. You matter to God. You can be healed of the emotional damage inflicted by other damaged souls around you. Don't let this opportunity pass you by. Thank you for listening. I hope you will participate in the next session, where we will focus on being devalued, another type of rejection. Until then, remain blessed, and bye for now.